With the official release of Marvel Rivals, me and the crew made it a goal to jump onto the sticks and hit the biggest hero landing of all time. But with the hype building for the game, the big question is whether this game matches the level of other hero shooters in the same genre like Overwatch, or does it fall on its face as hard as Concord? Should you download Marvel Rivals? Does it match the level of the legendary Overwatch? Could this game be the frontrunner for the multiplayer game of the year? Let's call for the Avengers to assemble, pray for the game to add Morbius as a character, and jump right into this. So let's start off with our good. And when I played Marvel Rivals, I honestly was pleasantly surprised. I mean, seeing a game that was very similar to Overwatch, and you know, there's been a lot of other hero shooters out there that have tried to match the Overwatch feel and tempo and try to kind of, I guess you steal the thunder of Overwatch over the years, because Overwatch obviously being that surprise game of the year and being that phenomenon until they just kneecap themselves by you know, making dumb decisions like going 5v5 and their you know, their entirety of their live service just being complete garbage and pretending that a sequel means just an update. So all those different things cause Overwatch to just basically decay and die. And when Marvel Rivals comes around, I thought to myself, well, this kind of feels like a game that actually has potential, and mainly because of the heroes. And I think that the heroes, in my opinion, are considered the best thing overall in this game, because not only do you start out the game with 33 heroes and villains, but I feel like they actually have made the characters have more abilities than Overwatch characters had. And I feel like that gives you a lot more ways to kind of play and manage your character on a daily grind. Because yes, most often Overwatch characters had roughly 3 abilities, right? And then they had their ultimate. But I've actually seen certain characters in Marvel Rivals that actually had even more than that, like maybe 4 abilities. And if you also count on people like Cloak and Dagger that have different forms of themselves that can also adjust, like the Hulk having the Bruce Banner form, the Hulk form, and then Monster Hulk form. Like they have different variants of these characters that are very unique. And I feel like it gives the game way more playability when it comes to the types of ways you can play. And I played so many different characters, and some of them are rigged, while others are pretty like balanced, and then others are just like oasis spaces, which is like something that every game has. But I feel like the good thing for me was these heroes and the fact that they are honestly heroes from the comic books that just kind of get you like, you know, I can appeal to that because I know Spider-Man. Like I love Spider-Man, or I love Wolverine, or I like Iron Man, and these characters that you knew growing up are now here, right? And I feel like that's something that not a lot of games can say, because we've seen so many hero shooters out there that just make up these characters and they're like, oh yeah, you know, it's Johnny, and Johnny's cool. Like, what? No, I don't know Johnny. And if I don't know a story about Johnny to make him that character appealing, then I'm not really going to be attached to that character. So I think what Marvel Rivals does with their heroes is smart in the way that they make them have a lot of different abilities. And obviously they kind of have an advantage, right? They have all these heroes that have been around forever that they just feel appealing to me. So I feel like the heroes overall, I feel like were my top thing that I really liked. But Haki, what is your good?
Yeah, I'll go over a couple of areas here, and starting with my biggest positive, I'll have to agree with you, the characters as well as the gameplay. So you see, you kind of get thrown back into, you know, the past, thrown into a time machine. You know, you feel like you're in the early lobbies of Route 66 in Overwatch. They were really influenced, like you said, by how that game and others like it was, you know, functioning, and you know, how they used different characters in different environments and how they kind of worked together and made it work. But they definitely did take some influence from that. Although there are some different characters, you know, some known characters in there. There are probably, you know, 4 or 5 that I had no idea who they were. I'm sure you guys had that experience as well. The uniqueness of their abilities and kind of how well they work together is something very difficult to do, especially with how many characters they had. But I think so far they've done pretty well. They took kind of the best aspects of the heroes that we love and some of their best move sets, and were able to kind of put them into a video game and, you know, make them work alongside other characters. That's one of their cool things. They have the character team ups, which was, you know, pretty interesting. So one thing that I definitely want to see is how ranked works in the, you know, coming months. But One other thing too is the passive ability that I thought was very interesting. Each character having their own kind of unique ability, separate of their own weapon. But something kind of like you said, Mars, they had a lot of abilities and kind of a lot of variety that you can choose from. So definitely something that was very interesting for the game.
Yeah, and Angelica, what is your good here?
Yeah, there's a couple that really stand out. Obviously, this game, like Haki has said, and like you have said, it does take a lot from Overwatch, and not so much their copywriting characters, but a lot of their some of the characters' abilities are very mirror images of what we've seen from Overwatch. But with that said, they do really capture the magic that Overwatch when they first came out. You mentioned 30 was like, I think 33 heroes and villains like that you have available at launch. And when Overwatch came out, it was 21. So they give you a lot to work with and a lot of different characters to play around with. And a lot of the characters feel pretty good to play. So that's definitely a high mark for them. And also some of the things they did different than Overwatch. We mentioned that they do the 6v6 stuff, but how about the destructive environments? Right, that is such a cool concept that we've seen from other games, and not a lot of games do that because it is, it can be a little bit difficult. But I tell you what, Marvel Rivals does a pretty good job of it, where you can, have people parked up on a second level. You can actually shoot down the floor or shoot down a wall and some things, create a new avenue to enter, the arena. Or, like you said, if there's someone high up above and bringing them down to your level. So there's some cool aspects with the destructive environments that I really like. Some of the environments that change a little bit, in some of the domination matches. So those are really cool as well. Really like that little details that they've added in there. And how about this? And I know it's not a high bar, but this is a live service game, and we're grading the game at launch. Like, Haki said, want to see what rank things can change, our scores can change. But it came out pretty smooth. Not a lot of bugs. The servers were pretty strong, and for a live service game with a lot of people jumping into it day one, we have seen this past year and years past of servers being an absolute disaster, even on high quality games. And for Marvel Rivals right now at launch has done a pretty good job servers wise for the community.
Yeah, I mean, remember back, Overwatch 2 kind of came out broken. We couldn't even get into games, and we paid, for what, $40 to play it early, and we couldn't even play it early, right? I mean, that was something that it burns my soul, right, thinking about it. But with the good, we then have to talk about the bad. And I think that when Marvel Rivals is going to fall into the same problem that a lot of these hero shooters have, and it always starts like in a honeymoon period where everyone loves the gameplay, they love the feel of it, but as time progresses, the anger starts to set in because of, one, the balancing of characters is completely off. I mean, certain characters are like, I was seeing online, a lot of people were saying, oh, we have Satan and the child of Satan and Satan's wife, and they start kind of mentioning all these characters like Hawkeye and Iron Fist and Sharky, right, and all these other characters, and Wanda, and they're all just brutal, right? They're all just completely rigged characters that feel like they're too OP. And sometimes I get good feelings in my stomach when I can just destroy Iron Fist and feel like a sense of satisfaction knowing that I embarrassed that player for picking that person. And sometimes I feel like a part of me says, I'm not going to pick a character that is rigged because it almost feels like I'm cheating by playing as that character. And I feel like that's obviously something that live service games always do. They always release certain characters that are OP, but I also don't want to see them just completely break these characters either. Like, I really love Wolverine, but playing as Wolverine feels like a liability. And I feel like I don't want to see that ever happen again. But I also don't want Wolverine to be the OP character that becomes like the dominant force, because he shouldn't be, right? Balancing is always a problem in these types of games. So my question is then going to be, well, how do you fix the balancing and make it where you don't destroy certain characters? A lot of times in a ranked, you see games like Call of Duty, and we mentioned this before, that they start banning things or they completely change the game, and then all of a sudden ranked just becomes a joke. And that's not what I want for this game, because this game is limited on game modes. There's not a lot to play right now, and it feels like if you kneecap any sort of game mode because of you overchanging something, then it's just gonna ruin the game. And I really don't want that to happen, because I feel like this could be a really good game that fills the role that Overwatch is gone, right? So I mean, they're still going Overwatch 2, but who's really playing it at this point, right? So that's kind of the idea. So for me, if they can fix the balancing and not really kneecap any character, then I'd be happy with it. But Haki, what is your bad?
Yeah, there's really not a lot of bad right now, so I totally agree with you. I thought this game was going to come out poor at launch, kind of like Frank said. I'm very surprised that it didn't. Not a lot of bugs, not a ton of glitching or rendering problems. I think I'm going to agree with you, Mars. The bad is to come, and I think it's going to be coming from two parties, or it could come from two parties. Obviously, the first party is going to be the devs. They can ruin this game just like Overwatch 2 was ruined. As you said, they can completely uproot the foundation of the game, change the core aspects of it, like Overwatch 2 was changed. You know, it is a live service game, like you mentioned, so it will evolve over time, but it seems like it has a good base, a good structure. The tweaking of characters, like I said, it will come, but you know, it's a big part of the game. It does need to happen, but we need to, you know, make sure that it doesn't change the complete aspect of the game. And then the second part, just like Overwatch, this game I can already feel can be toxic, or it will be toxic. This is a team game, right? So if you do not know how to play on a team or in a team aspect and you're just going out there as a solo dolo, you are not going to have fun. Your teammates are not going to have fun, especially in ranked. This is a team game, so you got to play as a team. And as long as you play as a team, this game is very, very fun. But, you know, it's up to the community and it's up to the devs to keep this game, you know, alive and thriving.
Are we going to see Haki make the return as a Grandmaster in Marvel Rivals? Because I know he was a Grandmaster in Overwatch, so I feel like he might have to make his return back to the same OG levels. Angelica, what is your?
We might. Let's see.
We'll find out. Angelica, what is your bad?
Yeah, I think again, there's like problems you could see on the horizon that Overwatch had to run into, but right out of the gate, I think two things kind of stand out to me. Is the character balancing, right? And, you know, you mentioned some of the characters that are way too OP and some of the characters that kind of stink. And it feels like in this game, they, you know, a bunch of the Marvel characters that have awful shows or awful movies, they like almost felt bad for them and made them better than, you know, what the whole audience has seen them on a screen before. Those are like the most OP characters. And I really wish that they had some more, you know, high-end characters as support characters. It feels like that has really been, not a lot of people want to be those healing and support characters, and it's probably because there's just not as many enticing, you know, main streamline big time Marvel characters as the support guys. And I think if they added those, you know, that would probably help people, because you see it in game after game after game when we played a lot of games in these social, because there's not limits on how many tanks you can be, how many balanced players you can be, and how many support characters you can be. You don't see a lot of people being support, and Overwatch had to kind of make it a, you know, you have to have this certain amount of people, you know, in a certain structure. And I feel like Marvel Rivals is going to have to do that unless they're enticing more people to be the support characters. They're just not going to want to do that. So that's kind of one of the big issues. And those character balance, some of the moves, you know, like the shark move, what is it? Jake the Shark, you know, where he can do his ultimate, gulp up an entire team and hold you for 6 seconds. And they can just run around or push you to the farthest end of the map. And it really is, if someone nails it in a game like Domination, it ends the game, right? It's a game ending. It's a checkmate. It's a Call of Duty nuke out on the field. And they have to do some of the tweaking. I don't want them to be heavy-handed, like you mentioned, where they completely destroy a character. They go so 180 the opposite direction. But there has to be some tweaking. Like, you know what, for that move, instead of 6 seconds, make it 3 seconds if you want them to be able to gulp the whole team. Or, again, do the damage quicker, have a max limit of 3 people you can gulp, something like that. And some of the other characters like Doomfist and stuff like that are things that they're going to have to work on. But you can see some of the issues on the horizon that Overwatch face. Can Marvel Rivals, are going to make those same mistakes, or are they going to handle this a little differently?
Yeah, and you know, Doomfist. I think you mean Iron Fist, but Iron Fist is kind of, he feels like Doomfist. But I agree. I feel like even maybe having it where the more people you have in your mouth as Jake the Shark, then, you know, maybe you lessen the time, right? Because it's like you're controlling multiple people versus a one person. Yeah, you know what? 6 seconds means like, hey, you know what? You control that guy for 6 seconds, but for a team of 4. Right, four people in your mouth. Like, I don't know, 6 seconds makes sense. But let's go then to our galactic grade. And you know, I was mixed with how I felt when it comes to this game. I feel like it's a really good game, and I really enjoyed it in the live streams we played. And I will definitely continue playing it because I feel like it's a game that's going to be continuously enjoyable if you all have a team. Like, and I've tried to play ranked on my own, like you said, and I I was just getting angry because I want to qualify for that tournament, trying to get to silver 3, and it's like, damn, people really are selfish. And I would have to be the healer or support character on my own because nobody else would want to be. And I just really enjoy that they have all these different characters that I can appeal to. Some of them are characters that I didn't even know existed, and I'm like, oh, I'm actually interested in, looking up their character, like Cloak and Dagger as an example. I dominate them as a character in the game, and I'm almost like, who are these people? Like, I don't know who they are, but they're associated with Moon Knight, and I was like, well, I gotta go investigate this, right? And I feel like that's something that I think is interesting, right? And I feel like they did a good job with that. Now, at the moment, Metacritic is sitting at a 72. What is only 5 critics out there that actually rated the game. So I feel like
a lot of them
people
are grades in progress, right? But we grade what we have.
We're going to grade what you got. I mean, we play this obviously for many hours at this point combined. And for me, I'm going to give this game an 8. I feel like this game has really good potential. I think that it's enjoyable. I think that characters are, for the most part, the characters are pretty balanced. There are some that are really OP. There's on like a 5-6 count list that I can say really are just over the top strong. But I felt like there are characters that I started out playing like trash, and then as I played them a few more times, I felt like actually they're pretty damn good. Like I started out Thor, and I was like, damn, I can't believe Thor's ass. And then I played him again and again, and I start feeling like I understand the way you have to play these characters. And I feel like that's what's great about a hero shooter or a hero game, where you have to know the strategy for what this character is built for and how they work. And I feel like I've played so many different characters that it's like I appreciate that. Like I appreciate the work that they went into to think of how these characters work together. And Haki mentioned before, the team up ideas, and like if you have a certain crew people together, it even gives you like a specialty move. I was throwing Wolverine like a cannonball across the map at certain points, like when I was playing the Hulk. Like, I mean, there's like cool aspects that they brought into play, and these are things actually from the comics. And I feel like that's something that a fan of Marvel really appreciates. So, for me, I'm giving it an 8, and I'm saying play it now. And I think this is a game that's fun. It works. Servers are working well. You have 33 characters, and yes, it has the bare minimum maps and game modes as Overwatch did. And the question is going to be, how do they change that? Are they going to make something that's different? Are they going to add new types of game modes? That's going to be a big question. And they have not really announced too much about what they're going to add in the future yet. I know they mentioned about the season pass and everything. That's going to be the next one's going to be $10. I know the first one's $5 basically. But I want to see what they add next, right? But I feel like right now it's an 8, and that's a good score for a game that is a free-to-play game. And I think that's a great thing to see. But Haki, what is your galactic grade? Are you going to play this now, later, or not at all?
Yeah, my galactic grade is going to be a little bit higher than yours because I think the nostalgia hit me a little harder from Overwatch. I mean, it's so close. It pulled so much from Overwatch. I'm at an 8.4. I think it's a fun game. It's a great launch for a game like this in a time where the multiplayer games are kind of stale. Obviously, with Call of Duty banning a bunch of guns and ranked, and Halo's got a few things going on, but this kind of set a fire into the multiplayer world, I think, which is pretty cool. I think we needed it for free as well, which is awesome. But guys, it is a live service game, which we know. So the adding of characters, the adding of maps, all of this stuff is going to evolve the game. It's going to be super important. I would love to see them bring in characters. You guys were both talking about it. I would love characters. Like one of my favorite characters, Silver Surfer. Get Silver Surfer in there. Get Ghost Rider in there. Get some like OG characters in there. I think it would be awesome. And again, I brought it up before, ranked. I think the objective style gameplay and the characters and their abilities and the map design really works well all together. So once ranked and once that tournament really pops off, I think it's going to be a fun thing. And I'm going to play now. Again, it's free. If you're big into superheroes, even if you're not, definitely give it a go. If you like shooters, give it a go. I think you can't miss with this one.
Angelica, what is your galactic rating? Are you going to play this now, later, or not at all?
Yeah, so this was, when I'm trying to grade this, it's not only what do we see at launch, because we can't predict what they're going to do, right? There's so much, it could go down, it can go up, like other live service that we've graded here. And I also tried to grade it as both someone who's into superheroes and someone who's not. And with all that kind of juggling, I'm at an 8, and I think it is a pretty strong score. And I'm at a play now. It is free, like you guys mentioned. And even if you're not huge into superheroes, that nostalgia blast probably won't hit you as hard, but it still runs pretty well. You still have a wide array of characters. Again, like you mentioned, there are some things. It's not super original, right? They do mirror a lot of characters from Overwatch. They take a lot of concepts from Overwatch, but they added some wrinkles that Overwatch did not do, which is like the destructive environments, the team up, whether it's getting different perks as a team or having a special move as a team. And so those are some cool things that bring, some nuance to this game. And so I think it's a pretty strong start. Things can change drastically, whether it goes up and down. And so I'm at an 8. I'm at a play now. And a question that I have that I know a lot of people are asking with a huge part of this video, is this the new Overwatch? And for me, I don't think it reaches that kind of level. Overwatch was kind of like a sensation, but I think this is a game that can last a long time. And I think it recaptures some of the magic that Overwatch has lost over the years. But I'll send it up to you guys. What do you think?
I think it is. I think right now you're in a lapse of Overwatch being good, and you're missing out on other hero shooters that really stink half the time. I thought that Concord was not going to lay a fat egg as it did. I thought it would be competent, but because Concord was ass and Overwatch is ass, there really isn't another. I know there's Deadlock is the other hero shooter that's possibly in the horizon from Steam or from Valve.
The beta's out.
The beta's out, but I to be honest with you, I haven't really heard much of it. I haven't really heard people talk about it, but I've heard people talk about Marvel.
People play it.
I know there are people that play it. I'm just saying there's not as much hype behind it compared to Rivals. I feel like Rivals, people adored it during their beta. I was dying to try to get access to the beta. I was trying to find every possible way to get to it. But people are loving Rivals right now, and I feel like it's kind of feeling like it's that maybe not Game of the Year winner, but I could see it being like I almost feel like it's almost like a layup for multiplayer Game of the Year. Only Call of Duty would be the only other one right now that but Call of Duty is last year's. This year's Game of the Years. So I feel like I really don't know right now. Marvel Rivals is the only one that's still there. No, but I'm saying like but Rivals doesn't count for this year's Game Awards. So I feel like I don't know any other multiplayer game that's coming out this year. I know Gears is coming out later in the year, but the idea is like, I just think that this one's hitting well, and it's like if they come out with heroes, and there's a lot, and the fact is, and you said it before, you're not really making brand new stuff. You're taking stuff that Marvel. You have all these infinite amount of heroes you can pick from. I can guarantee they're gonna bring in people like Daredevil and other characters that people adore, and they're gonna bring him in here, right? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised that like Green Goblin shows up. Like I'm just saying, like you have all these characters that are villains or heroes that you can see in this game, right? And I feel like if they start adding characters and they start adding maps and they add modes, this game is going to be like a shoo-in for multiplayer of the year. And the question is going to be like, what game modes do you add that elevates this to be higher, right? Because live service games rarely win Game of the Year, but Overwatch did. And Overwatch just added a few heroes. They didn't necessarily make that much of a change since day one, but they were a phenomenon, right? And I feel like that was something that I could see Rivals do because of that mass appeal that it has. But Aki, what do you think?
I mean, it's so close to Overwatch. It took such influence from them that I think because it works with all the characters from Marvel, that this game definitely could be a big thing in the hero shooter realm. But we're gonna have to see. They're gonna have to keep up to date with it and add characters and stuff like that, and make sure it's balanced. But yeah, ranked I think is going to be a big part, but we're going to see what comes of it.
Well, with that being said, we're going to close out the video, but I do want to say that if you like this type of content, make sure you drop a thumbs up and subscribe to support the channel. But if you are interested in some other games that have been talked about at the Game Awards, we also put out a video for Astrobot and really seeing whether this is a real masterpiece or not, because there's a lot of hype behind it, but does it really take the reins of a Super Mario-like game? Check out the video on the end screen and let us know what you think. Until next time, this is Marsman signing off. Game on.